incumbent Congressman Michael St. Nicholas with 10,076 votes. And then you with 33% of the vote, 7,238 votes. Will Castro, 4,564 votes. That's about 21% of the vote. Just real quick, Congressman, your reaction to this night and these results this morning.
I want to congratulate both Mike St. Nicholas and Will Castro for getting the votes and also especially for the delegate for coming in number one. Of course, the election is not over, and that's the issue here is that a majority of the voters have indicated that they really do want new representation in Washington, D.C. And so we look forward to a spirited 2 weeks as we anticipate a runoff on November 17th.
Have you already reached out to Will Castro?
No, not directly, but all of that is, I think we're all just trying to catch up on our sleep.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, Congressman, how do you?
I know you haven't.
Yeah. Get a nap for us later, but
A couple more hours.
what do you make of these results? Just the takeaways, if you will.
Well, it's as I said earlier, it's really hard to measure anything in particular in this environment. The turnout is low. The impact of the pandemic. Not sure what the issues are that people see, but we do think that the bottom line result is that we're going to a runoff. And over 50% have indicated that they want a different representation than they have now. Of course, I think a lot of people were assuming that this was going to have a radically different turnout. I never had that assumption. I always assumed that we would go to a runoff.
Right. Yeah. And I think you've said that on this show before. So with the strategy, obviously, if you add up, Senator Castro's votes, your votes, it's more than Congressman St. Nicholas's. But do you think that your supporters and Senator Castro's supporters will come out for this runoff election and vote the way that you want them to?
Well, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. I anticipate that. And I anticipate that there will be a greater turnout as well, because the choice will be very, very clear. And, you won't have all the other kind of factors involved in it. You have a binary choice, either the incumbent or someone different. And since the voters, as of yesterday, indicated that they wanted something different, I think that is a good signal for those of us who are desiring to provide the people of Guam a different choice.
Congressman, were you good? Anything?
No, you mentioned 2 weeks. That's what the Election Commission guidelines say? Once the results are certified, a runoff, if there's a runoff, it should occur within 2 weeks. We're still waiting to hear from the GEC.
Pardon me? I'm assuming that the law says that there'll be 2 week runoff in 2 weeks of the general election. So
Okay.
I'm assuming that that's November 17th.
Okay.
We didn't see a lot of campaigning from Congressman St. Nicholas. It was almost like an anti-campaign. Do you anticipate any debate, any interaction from him in the 2 weeks before we have this runoff?
Well, I certainly hope that we'll have debates and forums. I think when you have a binary choice, you need the people do need to see the two candidates, not just necessarily square off, but say what they have in mind and what they anticipate, how they see the issues, and how they see the work in Washington, D.C. going forward. Those are really important things, I think, to present to the public, and I eagerly look forward to any of those forums, and I urge any media outlet or any community organization to continue to sponsor those. I certainly do look forward to them.
Congressman, what would you say? We got a comment here. The people have spoken. No runoff.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the people have the people have spoken, and according to the law, there's going to be a runoff.
Right.
I can't argue with somebody who's online.
Right.
I think that's,
I think we figured
there's
that out
what
from
is
this
the-
campaign.
Chris, really, what is the point of that?
Right,
The
right,
point
right,
is, the law is pretty clear. You're
Right.
supposed to get 50% plus one. If the law were different, then we would say the people have spoken,
Right.
but the law is the law. And, one of the things that I've always urged is that people follow the rules.
Chris, can I jump in real quick? I have to run.
Yeah, sure, Doc.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to congratulate all the candidates for making the legislative race. Senator Joanne Brown, of course, I knew she would make it. It's the name recognition. From the very start at 5 in the morning, I said the difficult part about this election was that name recognition. When you get into the ballot box, it's very difficult to see who the newcomers are. And, I tried to search it myself. I had a very difficult time trying to recognize the names. So that was an impact on this election. So I think for the Republican Party, Senator Brown, that I actually analyzed a little bit is that if you guys had a little bit more name recognition in there, I think you would have taken over the majority. Tommy Morrison is one of them. I think he would have gotten in. And Siraj is shaking his head there, so he kind of distracted me a little bit. But regardless, I think it was a good election. The turnout was low, and I think it's secondary to the pandemic. But I think the 2021 year is going to be important for your legislative body because there's got to be check and balances, like you said. But I'm pretty confident that the new Republican, you guys are veterans. These are veteran senator that's getting back in there. So I think he's going to shake things up, but you'd have to reach over to the majority side. But I think you just need to gather one or two of that herd on the other side. So that being said, good luck. And let's hope that we can move this island forward in a better foot. And as far as the Congress race goes, I kind of agree with Robert Underwood that it would have been a three-way race simply because, the Democrats kind of threw a curveball in there when Will Castro announced, and then the Democrat really didn't support Michael San Nicolas and threw in Underwood's name. So that kind of threw things off. I think if Will Castro had taken a step back, he would have still retained a seat in the legislature. And I think that would have been a majority, at least as that point goes.
All right.
So I think the runoff is going to be interesting. And, speaking of debates, maybe the Guam Medical Association will send you an invitation. So we'll work with
Good.
the
That's great. That's a great idea. I appreciate that.
especially with the pandemic and what's going on. There's be a lot of hot issues. We'll
Right.
focus on the medical issues, and we'll see what happens there. The other thing too is that we didn't have a primary election, so I think that affected the layout of the land here. So I think the primary election was kind of important for the initial phase there. I think that's kind of an error there, but I think the gap has gotten closer from the Republican Party as a setup for 2022 elections. So I think the Democrats got to be a little careful on that side. As far as the overall election goes, I think, Maria Pangilinan has done a wonderful job. I went to the wrong precinct to vote. I went to a different area, but it worked out well. So I encourage people to get out and vote. And I think in 2 weeks, there's another election. So I think the runoff is there. So we'll see what happens there.
Okay,
But
Doc.
congratulations. And to all those who lost, really didn't lose because if you really think about it, it's an experience that's you've gained. And I think
Nah,
takes
they
a lot of
lost.
courage.
Which one?
Sorry.
Okay, Chris.
I'm not one of those.
Yeah.
It's not a
I'm just
loss,
trying
it's
to
a
be
learn.
nice here, okay?
Yeah. Okay,
But
Doc.
I think at the end of the day, I think this one island, no matter who the 15th legislative body that got elected in there, you really got to put the focus, put aside the conflict of interest, and move the island forward. The checks and balances between Guadeloupe and the legislative body has got to be there, and that hasn't happened, not this past year. So I think it's important to keep that in mind.
Thank
Other
you.
than that, I'll see you later. Okay.
Yeah, Doc.
Right.
Good luck.
Congressman Underwood, I know that you said you were anticipating this runoff election, but were you even just a little bit surprised with the numbers as they started rolling out with the lead that Congressman San Nicolas came right out the bat and maintained that lead throughout the night and into the early mornings? And let's face it, Congressman San Nicolas, he's made it clear that he has a really good relationship with the Republican Party of Guam. Juan, did you want to say something?
I leave the political speculation to your other guests. First of all, I appreciate Dr. Shea's remarks, but the Democratic Party didn't throw me into the race. I went into the race voluntarily with a specific purpose in mind. The political maneuverings and all that will go on, will continue to go on, and people will speculate. Yes, of course, I wish that I was number one, but I'm not. But I knew I had a pretty good sense all along that we were going to have a runoff. And so, and that the runoff meant, at the end of the day, the runoff meant that people were not satisfied with what they have now. And that's the bottom line. So we have a runoff in 2 weeks. It's also important to note that, there's lots of lessons there. There's name recognition, there's the power of the incumbency, there's resources available to incumbents, particularly if you're in Congress, that are not available to local officials. Right. So there's all those things that are available, and so we have the table set for another event in 2 weeks, and God willing, people will make a choice, and there'll be more participants, and that the sense that we need new representation in Washington will come through.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Zoomers, stand by. We got to take a real quick break, and then we're coming back with more of The Link right here on The Breeze 93.